YouTube looks good. Sounds good. It's 10 o'clock, so welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is a terrible looking morning outside today. Super muggy, so how's everyone doing on this Tuesday?
I've been better. Yeah, I've been better. No, but actually my eyes are recovering a little bit more than it had been yesterday. It's about half as better as it was the day before. So that's good news.
That is good.
So,
yes, very good, very good.
We are here to provide support and answer any questions about our products and services mainly. So if you have any of those, jump over to our IRC chat at foolishtechshow.com or foolishit.com. There's a few different ways you can join from there. And we'll be happy to answer any of those questions, and feel free to interrupt us because otherwise we're going to be rambling on about random tech stuff, and I got a lot of that stuff today. So does anybody else have anything they want to start off on?
No.
Okay. Starting off.
Whoa! I was on mute. Hold on, I did have something.
You always have something.
Let me just quickly. Now, I am working on confirming one side of this story, but it looks like the Windows 10, being expired or whatever, is not always the case. Proctor seems to have a.
You mean the free Windows 10 upgrade?
Yeah.
Let's be clear. Okay.
Yeah, the free Windows 10 upgrade. So basically, Proctor yesterday was able to, or the day before, I can't remember exactly, but he was able to reset his clock to allow it to continue. So basically, it just looks at the local time check.
Yeah, it was on Saturday, actually a little bit after midnight, and I just set the clock back a few hours and was able to do it. And then later on Saturday, I was able to do another one.
Yeah.
So clock back.
So setting the clock back is a workable means to bypass that, but there's also another workable means to bypass that.
Can I just stop you right there and ask, because of all of the time zones, is it potentially just something that they don't feel like calculating and that they just allow for, an extra, X number of hours?
I'm doing a confirmation on that right now, but it looks like it's not. I mean, if they're doing it days afterwards,
it seemed like he had some trouble with it.
I think the timer is just based off your local clock. So whatever your local clock's set to, it.
Yeah, but more importantly, there's a completely other way to circumvent it too. All you got to do is go to this one web page and tell Microsoft that you're using the accessibility features, and they'll let you upgrade no matter when it is.
That too.
Yeah. Well, that's not something that they advertise, and it's also not something that you can expect to always be there either.
Well, they're gonna stop it eventually, but they are advertising.
They are?
Yeah, that you can upgrade after if you have accessibility features.
I read.
All you have to do is agree.
I read an article I read an article on Saturday, I guess it was, that was not saying that, but.
Now, all you have to do is agree to it verbally. In fact, let me get you guys a link to show you where you can actually download that.
You have to use the assistive technology to agree to it?
No. You just have to click to agree.
That's not agreeing verbally then.
There's no okay, that's true. There's no check though, is what I'm getting at. So let me see, where is that link? Let's see. Well, I can't find it. Where was that? I was reading that this morning over coffee. Yeah, so here it is. Where's the chat? There we go. It looks like Rover's in Vegas. Good morning. Yes, so it looks like you can just go there and upgrade from that page, I think. But they're not really locking this down very hard, it looks like. So if you were worried or had missed it for some reason, possibly because of an assistive technology reason, please feel free to continue to upgrade. But anyway, that's the only one I wanted to throw in there to start us off so I didn't forget it. But you can take us away, Brantley.
Okay. So we got a lot of stuff here. We'll start off with some sad news. I had actually never heard of one of these before, but apparently a hot air balloon crashed in Texas and had 16 people on it. I did not know, A, that hot air balloons had room for 16 people. But
I heard that hot air balloons are taking a comeback. So
There's
there's
some big ones there.
well, I've seen a lot of hot air balloons in Boulder, and actually here too. They have like a hot air balloon day where there's like hundreds of hot air balloons in the sky. Boulder actually had it on a regular basis, and like there'd just be hundreds of hot air balloons in the sky. But again, it's not something that you hear about crashing a lot.
I heard they hit some electrical wires.
Trying to read it. They don't have official word on what could have caused the crash, but the balloon was found in mostly area that's mostly farmland and a row of high capacity transmission lines about 4 to 5, 6 stories tall cutting through it. So yeah, that could possibly be the reason. But yeah, otherwise in that thing, it says that only 16 reported fatalities attributed to hot air balloons from 2002 to 2012. So the last time that a hot air balloon was this fatal was in 2013, when one in Egypt crashed into a field, killing 19 tourists after catching on fire. Wow.
Sounds like you're way too into that.
I mean, it's terrible, but it would be a sight to see, wouldn't it?
oh dear.
It's just like, wow.
So yeah, good thing we're making America great again by cracking down on internet porn. Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's going to be successful.
I feel like he's going to lose a lot of his voters signing that pledge.
I know. Come on, jeez. That might have been this might be his biggest mistake ever. The porn rules the world. Every industry standard has always been dependent upon what the porn industry adopts, and technological standard at least. But
well, the people that are pushing that and trying to get people to sign that pledge are ones that are going after underage and mistreated.
I mean, yeah, I do admit that there's there's some illegal activities associated with it that could be due, and they're
not Michael. They're
these larger companies
going out there and saying turn off porn on the internet. That's not what they're going after.
Yeah, they're trying to prevent child pornography and younger
the pledge,
viewers, adolescents viewing pornography online.
Yeah,
well,
the pledge wants more laws saying not to do stuff that's bad and more police enforcement and ability for the police to enforce it. Because right now, honestly, I would say it's almost impossible for police to catch something. It's more likely that the how to catch a predator people will catch people versus regular law enforcement out and about.
Well, I understand, but what are you proposing? So how do they verify your age? How do they do any of this? Because it's going to be done by, it's not going to be done by you or I on our personal computers. It's going to be done by Google or Microsoft or Apple or one of these big tech giants that are ultimately going to be doing the.
There's ones that are all serving porn.
This.
How are they going to enforce that? They don't have anything to do with porn. Not one of those names would have anything to do with porn.
Who does have anything to do with porn? In other words, people are going to put porn on the internet regardless.
A lot of people have things to do with porn. There's a whole industry that has things to do with porn.
I know, but the illegal stuff, the industry doesn't take part in the illegal stuff, or at least not.
Michael, it's not going to be they're going to verify people beforehand. It's a how do we catch them after the fact pledge, because they realize it's impossible to stop initially. They need the ability to enforce it, which will then, they hope, stop it.
And how do they? What do you mean by enforce? What are you talking about specifically?
By giving police officers the technology and ability to track down criminals.
What would that specifically mean? What technology would you give them, and what ability, law-wise, would you give them to crack down on it?
Basically, like a technology task force, which I doubt many of the police people have at all.
Yeah. Giving local police departments, as well as their run, as we know, based upon recent events, giving local police officers their own tech department, and then hoping that they do it. See, the problem with all police departments is that they're not handled like the big cities do. When you go to New York City and you go to the police department, you're guaranteed a job when you graduate. Okay, you don't have to go looking for a job. You get one. Okay, on all these other smaller towns, on the vast majority, 90% of the rest of the country, though, somebody goes to probably the only police academy that they might have available in the entire state or region that they're located in, and then they got to go find a job. Okay, and there's no guarantee that the training they get is focused on the communities that they're serving. There's no. There's
never seen a police officer out of work saying, "Oh man, I just can't find a job."
No, it's not that they can't find a job. But the problem is with the training.
Every day.
You don't understand my point. You don't understand my point. The problem is not with the police officers getting jobs. That's not a problem. The problem is with the police officers getting the training that they need for the areas that they're serving. Okay, and
that's what I'm saying. They're not even serving the technology area.
Yeah.
Like if you call up and say your computer was hacked, your police department ain't going to do nothing for you. They're not going to be able to look into it. They're not going to walk through and help you contact ISPs, get court orders, and
I really don't think that that's their responsibility to do. I don't really think that that's their responsibility to do anyway.
I think that we need our police to be able to keep up with today.
They can't even keep up with the non-technological problems.
Well,
I don't think throwing more technology in their hands is going to fix anything.
Because the internet crosses state lines and sometimes international lines, it falls outside of the jurisdiction of the local police department.
Yeah, I think
things
that may be why they're going.
Child pornography and crimes that are actually physically committed within a county or a city, then those can be prosecuted by the local police. I do have a friend of mine who's a detective with the sheriff's department, and that's his job responsibility is fighting computer crimes.
The last thing I want is a local police department doing technology investigation into anything, because the most that they're going to do is break something. Worse, I mean,
he left a very well-paying IT job
Nick,
to become a sheriff, to work for the sheriff's department, and makes a lot less money, but is rewarded by helping out the public.
Well, I was just going to say the most that Michael was going to do is talk over people with a different opinion.
Oh. But I mean, honestly, if they're going up to the president, you're probably looking more at the FBI, which has been the ones pretty much. I mean, they're the ones that I hear about taking down child porn rings and various things like that. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be giving them more power, giving them more budget to focus on those type of things. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see what happens. It's just a pledge right now. It's not even anything, so no reason to really focus on it.
And Hillary's also put out a statement that she supports it as well. So.
She refused to sign it in the article I saw.
She supports the idea she didn't sign it, but she supports the idea.
Yeah, she's
wants a politician. Somebody will tell her what it means later.
Just like any other bullshitter, she wants to sit both sides of the fence.
Yeah. Well, what her point was is kind of along the side of what Michael's saying, is that it's not just going to be you can pass a law, give police more money, and things are going to change. She said that it's a combination of the industry, government, and the public that all have to be on the same page to be able to enforce it and take any action. So
yeah, so basically everybody has to be in complete agreement, and absolutely to make this. Yeah, that's such a political bullshit statement. I mean, how are you concretely going to do this? You don't fucking talk about. I'm sorry. Don't talk about pledges. Talk about specifics and how you're going to enact stuff like this. It's great to say, "Oh, I'm gonna decrypt the entire internet and remove all encryption keys." But how are you going to go about doing that? And that's the problem. It's all big talk, but when it comes into the details, you realize it's impossible or nowhere near what you were, preaching from the pulpit. So. Oh, but on a lighter note, it looks like Google's done a real good job of encrypting YouTube connections. And that concept of HTTPS everywhere seems to be catching on.
They just turned on HTST on all their domains too.
Yeah,
they used to
I
only
do
have it on
respect
Google.
the fact that they are keeping on top of all that.
Well, they were one of the first to start switching to SSL even, so. Speaking of YouTube and HTTPS connections, this guy is the one that we talked about, or I'd talked about before, that stuck his hand in a bunch of fire ants. He also apparently let a alligator snapping turtle bite his arm. That was pretty crazy. On the same note, he also let a alligator bite him, although he did take the baby way and went with a baby alligator. I'm going to put that in our description. Yeah, so. USS Rover, I'm surprised that most porn sites haven't switched to the .xxx domain.
Yeah, now that type of thing.
It's not like the child porn people on tour are gonna abide by any of those rules anyway. So, or bestiality or any other fringe porn stuff.
What would you think about a law that required porn sites to have the .xxx? That way, that filtering would be
I'm
extremely
saying,
easy.
how are you going to enforce that?
Internationally would be close to impossible.
Even in national standards, I'm saying like that.
And listen, you do know that
like childporn.com.
You do know that in other countries, it's perfectly acceptable to offer advertising space for pornographic advertising. And it might not even be the porn industry. You might have nudity in a commercial for cars or food or something else. Do you have to rate all those websites as .xxx? So would a car manufacturer have to put a .xxx?
There's a difference between nudity and porn, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, where do you draw the line, though? What if if I just choose to have
penetration usually?
Okay.
Or contact.
Okay.
I mean, there's sexual acts versus nudity.
Yeah. I mean,
and there's even art.
So somebody's gonna sit there and review all those sites to determine whether or not they should.
I mean, nudity is still illegal if they're underage or.
In what country? Whose laws are you talking about? Which country? What age? I mean, it's
America
it's different
and most of the civilized world.
I think we take for granted what most of the civilized world is, considering the landmass of the civilized world is not that. And it's civilized to standards. I mean, why
Europe,
are we
Russia, China, all of those places are all 18 plus. Japan is to the point where they don't even allow porn that doesn't have genitalias blurred out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, didn't they change that? I've seen some Japanese stuff recently that hasn't had that. I know that was very strong.
But let's get off the porn topic. Boring.
Anyway, I want to talk about something totally different. This I thought you would be on top of the open source.
I was just going to say, Michael, before you move on, Germany has some extremely strict laws on that, and there's even a separate category on OpenDNS content filtering for German youth protection. So, and it doesn't even really explain much of it other than it's hardcore, and you need to go read some German statutes in German. But I'll move on.
So, yeah, it's the FCC did a settlement with TP-Link, and the one interesting part, I mean, the settlement was generic, most of it, but the one interesting part was that they're requiring them to support open source firmware. That is it's kind of awesome. I didn't know that they had the authority to force them to do that, but that's pretty cool.
I guess. I thought this was a super, super funny and very interesting show. It's Action Bronson and Friends watch Ancient Aliens. So have y'all heard of the Ancient Aliens show?
Yes, but who is Action Bronson?
It's a rapper. He has a bunch of other rappers and DJs on the show.
I was thinking Charles Bronson.
I was too when I first.
Actor.
That would be much better.
When I first saw it, that's what I was thinking.
Blow him all up.
And I was like, oh, he's a rapper.
I've not heard of Ancient Aliens either, I guess.
But it's actually like in its 19th season now. So
What?
And yeah, it's been fairly long running, but it was interesting, and it's really funny because it's basically just a bunch of rappers sitting around watching a TV show and getting stupid high and talking about stuff. And Action Bronson apparently has a big temper problem, so it's kind of funny. And Tyler, the creator's kind of a weird, funny dude anyway, so. I thought it was really funny and worth a watch. So on the last episode of Mr. Robot, besides the torrent stuff, they also showed where the mask for F Society came from, and it was a cheesy horror show or horror film, and it was actually
a crazy horror film.
A cheesy horror film.
I thought you said greasy. Yeah, that taking me back to Trailer Park Boys. It's greasy horror show.
Not that. But this one is actually a fake movie, but they made 8 minutes worth of the movie for the show, and you can watch that online if you want to watch that first, or that film, what little bit of the film they made for it. I thought this was a really interesting one too. Pablo Escobar was apparently like extremely wealthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, drug lords, of course. I mean, is that new?
No, I mean like to the point where I don't think he's been surpassed in his industry and making that much money. Like
maybe not. Yeah, that's possible.
He had like, I think they said it was like a 2% or 2 to 5% write-off every year for cash that just got destroyed by water or fire, because they were just storing cash everywhere. So like they'd rent a barn and they'd just fill it up with cash, and then some of that cash would get eaten by rodents or destroyed by water or hit by fire, and they would just write off it. Like, who cares?
A little bit more technology related. A bug that was discovered in 1997 apparently can be used today under Windows 8 and Windows 10 to compromise your live account and your password hash.
Well, any Windows account.
Any Windows account, yeah. So it affects OneDrive, Outlook, Skype, Xbox Live, Microsoft Office, MSN, Windows Mobile account, Microsoft Bing account.
No, it's whatever account you're signed into in Windows.
which is connected to those services.
That's not it. It doesn't have to be.
Well,
if you're like your computer, you're signed in as a local account on your Windows 10, right?
No.
Oh, well, you used to be. That would only send the username and password for that local Windows account. It's not like it's searching your account for Windows Live account and sending that.
No, but that same login information is used can be used transparently to sign into all those other services. So typically, a user who would be signing in this way would use the account with any of those services that they happen to use.
Well, the big issue with this is the fact that they do have the ability to use a live account, and now that information is being sent. So before,
I got you.
And it was just sending local Windows account, which that doesn't really matter.
Why wasn't this ever fixed though? In other words, 1997, long time ago.
Yeah, it was a bug in '95 and
20-year-old bug.
Because it's convenience versus security. Basically, Windows, when you try to connect to a shared network drive, it sends your username and password first to try to connect to it. And then if that fails, it prompts you with the username and password box to try to sign in with a different account. But at least it's not sending it plain text. It is sending the hashed version.
Oh yeah, but if the hash is so easy to crack, that pretty much if your hash is leaked, you can consider your password leaked. That's usually what security experts say these days. So,
I think if you still have a complex password, even with your hash being leaked, it would take
maybe with an extremely complex password, but this is, apparently it's. Again, the article that I posted there suggested that if your hash is compromised, you might as well consider the password to be, and you should change it. So,
here's some people trying to save a shark. And he was not happy about it. No, Glenn, do not use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the same thing as my luggage.
By the way, guys, everyone, I confirmed that Newegg is
1, 2, 3, 4.
Newegg is sending out a notice to everyone. Proctor got a notification about a video card he purchased, but everyone who purchased, it looks like Parker said 960 or a 970 is going to get a notification from Newegg, and they'll be contacted subsequently with additional details on claiming the money once NVIDIA works out those details. So
yeah, I've been contacted about the 960 and the 970.
Yeah, so and I've got other reports of other people doing that too. So all the websites that I read that review video cards and stuff like that, they're all noting that they've received the same types of notifications. So that's really good. That type of proactive notification is great. It should not be up to the consumer to remember what they bought possibly all those years ago.
Yeah. I thought this was a really cool article here. One of my favorite anime film, probably my favorite anime film.
Akira, yeah, my
Akira. This guy went through and basically showed how influential this movie was on the entire cartoon world alike. That the biggest scene where he slides his awesome motorcycle to a stop has been used in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Clone Wars, Pokemon, Adventure Time, and several other shows and cartoons and stuff. It was just it's visually stunning movie, and if you definitely haven't seen it, highly recommend checking it out, because I consider it probably the best I've ever seen. So. I thought this was an interesting article as well. the where people think potheads are lazy history came from. From what I gathered from my skimming the story, it was because of Nancy Reagan.
Yeah, Nancy Reagan.
She did a lot.
Yeah.
She did an awful lot for that. But
because
for that,
Steve Jobs used it. Hunter S. Thompson. What's his name? Carl Sagan. Tons of
Oh,
people
really, Carl?
get high and
Really, Carl? I didn't know.
do great
Fan
things.
of him, Carl Sagan.
Really, Carl? Are you kidding me? Have you seen his show? He was high every time I saw him.
I just thought everybody acted like that in the 70s.
I would think
Everybody
he was
acted like that.
stripping on some of the stuff I've seen.
No, I just thought he was a real nice guy. Look, when I was a child and I was watching, I thought that's what the world should be. I thought Bob Ross should be every painter, and I thought that every science show should have should be like what was it called?
you're still like that, Michael.
But well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, you have some preconceived notions for how everything is supposed to be, and you tend to go with that.
Is that not Bob Ross?
And but anyway, yeah, I don't think actors are going to have jobs too much in the future with the level of progression they've got with video games and cinematography. And I think there's actually more creative work done on video games these days than there are on actual movies, or the vast majority of movies. I know there's probably a lot of exceptions, but and the funding for them is starting to rival movies. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the next big movie type release was spawned from the video game industry. So take a look at that if you're interested in that, I guess. And I want to post the link one more time. I might have posted this yesterday, but since VR is such a big deal, the different types of requirements, performance requirements. This is the first time I've seen an actual performance comparison of video cards in VR for gameplay concerns. And so there's a lot of things that go into the VR experience. So you have to run, and it depends on the type of equipment you're using, but most equipment will run at like 90, and then it'll drop down to 45 frames per second. Now the 90 frames per second is fine. You have very good, usually people report the gameplay is great. 45 though, if your graphics card can't do the 90 and has to drop down to the 45, that's when you start to barf. So get physically sick. And so it's not just like, oh, I have herky jerky on my video card or teared frames or something like that, visual feature artifacts. It's not that's going to be the issue. It's going to be you getting sick, and so that's a big, that's something to consider. And I'm glad that there's now some data to help people understand and what they might expect with a given video card and given equipment. And there's things that they do to try to mitigate all these effects, and they talk about those in the article. But ultimately, you have to have a pretty fast card. In other words, none of their cards were able to give a perfect run, pretty much, except for the 1080, which is one of the most, the highest end card just about that's out right now. So that's a tough performance bar. And a lot of other high-end cards that they have there and show the data for, basically are spending a lot of time at 45 frames per second. And apparently that's not going to be good for people's tummies. So look into that if you haven't. That's
tummies. Oh, no.
Well, I think where VR games are at right now, I don't think that's that bad of a thing. It's not like they're.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying if you're new, if you were coming from traditional video games and want to get into the VR market, and you're wondering if your video card is capable and wondering what you can expect, I mean that's a legitimate concern. Because like me, what if I want?
I understand if you have a 970 or higher, you're fine.
look at the performance numbers and look at the data and look at what they're saying in that article. That article doesn't support that. Basically, you have to have the 1060 might even be possible, but the 1060 and the 970 performance is about the same, and both of those results for the 1060 published there, they didn't do the 970, but they did a 980, and only the 980 Ti was in the list, and it was rated second best below the 1080, and then below that was the 1070, and then the 1060, and then the Fury cards from AMD and stuff like that. But anyway, take a look. You need a lot of performance, and 970 might not do it. And you might not be the ones that are prevalent to getting sick too. So I mean, that could be another issue. There's people that are more predisposed to this type.
Well, I'm saying the video games for VR are like the video games for when you had a NVIDIA One come out. It's not like today's video games where you have to have a high frame rate and things like that. It's like there's not that much complexity in the VR games as it is right now.
Just read the article.
If they come out with nicer stuff, it will be.
Yeah, well, that's what they said. You could run it you could run it on the 970. I know you could run it, but they're saying that it looks horrible, basically. The aliasing and the issues at lower resolutions running these things. You know, they say the wow factor overshoots that. They say just because because you can look around and you can do all those other things. Usually, people don't sit there and focus on those things, but when you spend enough time in it, you start to realize.
That's what I'm saying, Michael. It's not to the point where we have to worry about any of that stuff right now. Like, they don't have anything that's worth saying there and being like, wow, this is just beautiful. It's the wow factor and the abilities and people focusing on that stuff right now. Maybe in the future, if they come out with a full-fledged game that's like Unreal Tournament in VR, that would probably require a high-end video game card. But I'm pretty sure you're fine just getting a 970 or above, which are all VR rated. Let's see what the HTC Vive even requires. Graphics card, 970 or R9 290 or better.
Yeah.
Only an i5 required.
Yeah, so low resolution VR is what we're talking about.
Oculus Rift, 970 or R9 290 or better. i5 only.
Yeah, the processor is not the key. I've seen that consistent. It's the graphics card, certainly. That's the.
But again, there's no reason. I mean, like, it's just like any video game. If you're getting the lowest requirement, it's not going to look amazing. It's not going to be.
Well, they reviewed a specific game. They reviewed a specific game, raw data, the game, and they just look at their observations. What I liked about this is these were actual gameplay observations. Okay. And so these are people playing the game.
Well, this is
reporting back.
Basically, what you're saying, this is all opinionated and has absolutely no basis in fact.
No, it does show the data that supports. No, it shows the data that supports it. It's gameplay, but look at the data. Fine, don't read the article then. Just believe what you've read and convince yourself. And the next time you go out and buy a game like this and have a poor experience with it on your VR headset, don't come complain.
My phone does VR. I can get the headset. I thought this was really funny. Lil Wayne is not a fan of answering questions, and it was honestly amazing. He got away with some of that stuff in a disposition, and they didn't just arrest him right there. But like, he even went to the point of threatening someone, threatening the other lawyer. I thought this was really funny. So NetHunter sent this link to me, and he was like, did you know that you can put duct tape in between your phone and the case, and it'll give you unlimited cell phone data? And I was like, no, because that's not true. He was like, no, it blocks a received packet. So your phone is saying back to the network that it's received the data packet, and that's what makes it charge your account. And I was like, no, you receiving data is what makes it charge your account. If the network sends data to you, that's what they're counting. They're not counting if your phone got it or not. They don't even care if your phone got it or not. But yeah, it is completely fake. Do not believe that. But I thought it was. Do you want to check and see if your browser could be tracked across websites?
I saw that link. Did you try it yet?
No. I don't care if websites can track me across with my browser. Here is a link to test if you would like, though. Still interesting for people that are concerned. I'd like to see what you get, Michael, since you have like thousands of.
I'll follow the link here in just a moment. But yeah, thanks Washington for going after the monopoly that is Comcast. But I totally agree with why they're doing that suit. But basically, you know, the deal is that they're doing plans that are just $5 plans for people that, you know, just basically doing not workable plans, basically. Deceptive marketing.
Nick, that one I posted, I was thinking about you when I found it. Things you can do with pool noodles.
Ooh, neat.
Oh, directly misleading customers too. Interesting to see, though. I mean, they're bringing a lot of charges against them, but you know what actually happens in the case will be another matter. But I do think that whenever a company is in a position of having monopolistic like control over their customers because of because monopolies, there's another way to say it. I like to see the pushback because they shouldn't be allowed to do whatever they want, and they take advantage of the customers, and and it is deceptive marketing. You know, they'll and go to even something simple like oh, you know, do the right thing, go green, you paperless billing. Well, what they don't tell you is that if you don't go paperless billing, and I've mentioned this before, that they'll charge you more to offer you the paper billing that they have been, and you're giving up your rights as a consumer by doing that, and you're saving them money. Basically the same person that you don't like, you hate the customer service on, you hate the actual service that they provide to you, you hate the customer service they provide to you, and now they're basically asking you to save them money, and then they're threatening to charge you on top of that if you don't. So you know, to me, every company, and I actually not that totally against the operator that provides me with my service. However, they do that same bull BS advertising, and it's incredibly deceptive, incredibly bad, and they need to be stopped. That's my opinion.
It sounds like you just hate trees and forest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought this is a cool thing you could do with Alexa. Create your own scoreboard. So like if you're sitting around playing spades with your friends, you can just have Alexa keep track for you and then have it displayed on the big screen. Thought that was interesting.
That's cool.
I thought this was really cool. Jack White label, Jack White from the White Stripes. They do a lot of publicity stunts for new albums and things, but this one was very interesting. They sent a record player up into space and played a vinyl record at 94,000 feet. first record to be played in space.
Really? They didn't do that back in the day?
Apparently not.
That's interesting.
I guess they already had cassettes by that time, though, didn't they?
I think so.
Yeah.
This was pretty interesting, too. There's a Chrome extension that can open whatever site you're on in incognito mode and then erase it from your browser's history and everything.
Let me see that extension. And and that reminds me, I need to do that browser link that you sent.
Hey, Philthex. Good. So, Michael Jordan spoke out for Black Lives Matter over the weekend, apparently. And this article was relaying it. And what caught my eye was actually the picture that they have there, because I thought they were going to come out with new blood-splattered Jordans. And I was like, those are actually pretty cool-looking shoes. But apparently other people in the comments also thought that, and they had a huge talk about everyone wants those shoes now.
They do look kind of cool.
They do, don't they? You would not think blood splatter would be that cool, but it does look pretty interesting.
What would be even better if they like had, each pair was unique,
Yeah. Oh, that would be cool. Well, then I was thinking, like, how hard would it be to make blood splattered shoes? Like, just cut my finger and then splatter blood all over it. But then I was like, then it would turn brown, not that bright red that they got there. So
yeah,
you have to get fake blood and do it that way. Here's a video on why you should always buy a large pizza instead of getting several small pizzas, because you will get more pizza per slice. Wait, this one's for Glenn. Glenn, apparently people in your country are very upset that everyone is claiming to be a Jedi as their religion.
What?
The Atheist Foundation of Australia is leading a campaign to get people to stop making this joke. The reasoning is that when officially counted, Jedi gets classified as a not defined religion instead of no religion. When that happens, they believe it makes Australia seem more religious than it really is.
Okay. Undertaker Glenn's going.
What?
What? Okay. Yeah. Listen, I wouldn't report news from Australia without confirming it with Glenn. Not to say he necessarily represents everyone in Australia. However, I take his firsthand reports of some of the things down there to be more accurate, and I don't trust actual regular conventional media outlets. So
it's not
there's a big.
everyone in Australia. It's obvious the atheist movement in Australia is fighting against it.
So is there a big? I mean, I'm assuming that the anti-Muslim sentiment is pretty strong in Australia, and a bit of xenophobia going on down there, I imagine, for some of the folks. Yeah. It's interesting. They've gone as Australia's pushed pretty far to the right in their response to those types of things, much like we have in this country. But I want to get back to tech and get off of some of these other topics that are harder to quantify. What do you guys think about this? I think this is a great idea. Now, this is a crowdfunding thing, so it's not it's not completely set in stone yet. But I love it. The desktop concept, the laptop concept, the upgradable concept. It's a really strong focus. I don't know if you guys know what this is, but basically it's you're going to get a case, basically a shell, either a desktop shell or a laptop shell, and you're going to have compute modules that you can you should upgrade the processor and the RAM with, or all other aspects. Ideally they want everything to be ultimately replaceable, cheaply and affordably replaceable, without having to throw away the whole device and get a complete new one. This concept has been talked about a lot with cell phones too, having like replacement.
I don't see why they're doing that with a desktop.
Well, I kind of like the idea for the laptops, though, and
laptops
to show the flexibility, just to show the flexibility of it. But the same module that will power the desktop will power the laptop or anything else. I like it. I think there's some details that might need to be worked out, and it does look like you're going to be forced to be in the Linux camp with this. But I don't think that's as big of a deal today as it has been in the past. And it looks like they have pretty good wide software support, and they're choosing a more traditional compute module, and this is not like a cutting-edge 64-bit one, so it should hit the ground running a little bit more quickly than some of those other things that I've been involved in, and the Kickstarters and things that I've been involved in, like with the Pine 64. But I really like the idea and the potential for you to be able to pull out this module and replace it. The fact that they've reused like technology that's already well standardized, and like they use basically the PCMCIA form factor for the modules, and it should be cheap to produce, cheap to implement, and I'm hoping to see some good stuff from these guys, and I hope that they succeed. And it looks like they've gone a long way into their funding. They've raised $58,000. It's about 40% funded, and they've got 24 days left. If you agree, it might be worthwhile making a donation, but beware, it's a Kickstarter. So but they've got a lot of it's been featured all over. Whether or not that means it's good is another matter, but a lot of tech sites have seemingly liked the idea, as I have. So take a look.
It's pretty underpowered currently.
Yeah, but if you look at their asking price for the entire machine, I think $65, for the card. I don't think it's that big of a.
Well, I wouldn't see any reason to do that for a desktop. Desktops are already modular to me.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'll take that. And I don't like the fact that Link has the micro desktop at the end, but they talk about in that article the laptop module, and
they should only focus on laptop. They should.
I agree, but they want to show that this is interchangeable. That it's not just tied to the one device. You can take it from one device and stick it on another device, so you can kind of take your computing with you, sort of, in a way. Again, you look at the laptop enclosure, the housing kit for it. That's $450, but you potentially, might be able to buy that and then upgrade your power and other things as you go along with it. It's not a perfect concept. I think it could be refined, but I'd like to see a little bit more flexibility, particularly in the cell phone market with this upgradability, and in the laptop market, because my current laptop.
Those are coming.
Yeah.
The laptop market is not, but the cell phone ones are coming.
Okay. Well, maybe these guys can help in the laptop market then, and you're right. I think they should solely focus on that. I think that's a bigger, it's the bigger thing to do, and the whole thing with the desktop is probably more of a distraction, and the fact that it's not bringing super power to it is going to be a case where I think the opposition could argue against it, but.
That's weird, y'all. I'm not seeing any buffering on the streams that I'm watching. Y'all are farther away. This was really nice. So you'll stop seeing as many Nigerian princes asking for.
Yeah, they finally
bank account information.
They caught that guy. What? He goes by Mike. The only name he goes by is Mike.
They called a guy. They didn't catch that guy. He's not the one that definitely did.
Does that guy actually exist? Even
But yeah, one of the cases that he had gotten, he had conned someone to pay out $15.4 million. So apparently, like, why would you have kept going after that? That would have been like the stopping point for me. I got 15 million out of one person. I think I'll be all right for now.
Agreed.
Did y'all know that there was flooding in Baltimore? I did not, and apparently pretty bad flooding even. Pretty crazy
Holy
looking.
cow.
Yeah, if you look at that. I did not know that was going on right now, but they are right on that bay, so hearts and thoughts and all that. Same thing for California. California has a fire. I don't think it's as big as what was up in Canada earlier this year, but they're expecting it to get 4 times the size it is now and last for the next month. So that's kind of scary for them. This was really cool too. This robot runs completely off a neural network, so none of the movements are have any human control or interaction. It's all based off of computer judgment and stuff. And it does look really creepy.
That is a bit creepy.
Yeah, so robots are coming. It's coming for you. This is a pretty cool concept, but like the article says, I'm not sure there's much of a use for it. Self-balancing stick. I'm guessing maybe in larger situations you could use that for something. But I would imagine it would require larger spinning pieces and a lot more power, so I don't know how it would scale up.
Interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. We got anything else here? Yeah, a ton of stuff. Here's 9 key skills to flying drones. So make sure you're up on those if you're out drone flying. This was interesting, and I didn't really get to read the article yet because it just came out this morning before the show. But there's something called a little bit, and it helped. What the article says is it gives kids the power to rule their rooms. And the first picture there shows like it's showing when a drawer is opening, and they can set up an alarm or booby traps and interesting things. So it's another one of those. Let's get kids introduced to technology and programming early, I feel, but I thought it was pretty cool looking.
I know we've talked about it a little bit, but here's another article about the differences with the anniversary update that'll be coming out.
Isn't that out today?
Is it today or tomorrow? I couldn't remember.
It's out today.
Yeah, today. So here's the changes that you can expect from it. And honestly, it's really not nearly as much as I went through and I delved in. I didn't actually read this article. I read a different one. But the changes are like minor. So the ink, which, I mean, I don't use a pen input. And again, if you do, this might be. But it's really just kind of putting all the pen features that have existed into a more maybe make them more conveniently accessible. But you know, the start menu has received further improvements and refinements. I like that, but
I'm really excited about the virtual desktops update.
What about talk to me more about that, because you've mentioned that and that wasn't talked about much in the article that I read.
You're going to they're making improvements on the overall smoothness and working of it, but also you're going to be able to pin Windows to all desktops.
Oh yeah, and the clock. Oh, and the clock on the multiple
extremely
desktop.
useful.
Yeah. Right now I have 3 virtual desktops that I use for various focuses, and I have on each of them Hangouts window open, so I could have that one just pinned to that window and it would just be there all the time. So
yeah, these are great improvements.
My security cameras, I could have pinned so that they're on each of my virtual desktops. So.
Dude, the clock. Now, you might think having 2 clocks on, or 4 clocks, if you had 4 monitors on every desktop, you'd think, why? Who would ever want that? Okay, open up a game. Open up a full screen game on your main monitor and wonder why you not always had a clock on every screen in the past. Just do it. Play for a little while and wonder what time it is.
I've wanted a clock on all of them, so.
Yeah, I generally have too, but I didn't quite, I fully appreciate sometimes the reasoning for it, and I've only generally had 1 monitor in the past. Now I've had 2 for a while here, but I have yet to do a whole lot of gaming with the multi-monitor setup. But I could easily see, doing that. I have this whole other desktop. Why do I need to? I need to know the time, and I can't do that right now. It's weird. Okay, there's other changes to the Action Center. Oh god, I hate the Action Center for the most part, so any improvements to that I think are worthless, but some of the
Michael, are you on amphetamines?
I'm on steroids. But there's that, and Cortana, again, I don't use Cortana much, so I'm not a big fan of the improvements on that. Edge, I don't use Edge that much, and I'm really, although, Chrome pisses me off more and more. Who knows? Maybe I would try to use Edge a little bit more, but...
Did you not put Chrome in a virtual machine yet?
I'm not running Chrome actively out of a virtual machine now that my memory issues have been relieved by massively upgrading, but I still think that's a good idea.
They haven't been relieved, though. You still have no control over how much memory your browsers take up.
No, I don't have control, but I just have so much memory it's not an issue anymore. Now, the developer and the enterprise features, I think those are notable improvements, similar in line to the desktop, multiple desktops and the time and stuff. But the fact that you can run, as we've talked about previously, Linux applications on it, on Windows is pretty impressive. And Microsoft worked very closely with Canonical, and of course that's why it's Ubuntu effectively that's in it. That's why the deb packages are supported as well. Let's see. What else? The enterprise features, I believe.
Jeez, Glenn.
are pretty good. But again,
we'll find out when they read that article or upgrade to the anniversary edition.
I just think it's not as big as the hubbub, but you be the judge.
Well, we've reached our hour time limit, so let's leave with one last link here. If anyone's seen the first season of Fargo, you'll be familiar with this, but apparently activists got upset with a burger store in England, London actually, and they let loose 8,000 locusts, 2,000 crickets, and 4,000 cockroaches into a burger joint. So yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Nice.
Something similar on the first season of Fargo. They let a whole bunch of crickets into the grocery store. So,
hey, before you cap it.
Yep.
Yesterday I did the virtual audio cable batch, and that wasn't good for me because I told you later on, I was playing around with it, and I had really screwed up my virtual audio cable control panel settings so that things were weird and strange. And so I went in and redid the batch to fix it for me, and I just wanted to post it because I know Rover was interested or something, I don't know, in virtual audio cable yesterday, and he's still in here. So I wanted to post up the links to the batch where I actually fixed it. And I have this huge header in there that explains to you guys how to actually configure it properly as well, with comments for your control panel and everything.
Okay. Well, that was going to be my other suggestion, is maybe we can get a couple pictures of what your audio panels look like. I know you had a bunch of settings and stuff. So
yeah, I've got it squared away now, finally.
Actually, you know what? Having a video out there on that would probably be extremely helpful, because when I was trying to set that stuff up, I could not find a good video that explained how to set it up and use it and what it was
Yeah.
actually supposed to be doing. So we might.
Yeah. Now I don't know how that's going to work with Michael and Proctor. You know, with also with XSplit and whatnot. Obviously, some things are going to have to be thought about or changed, but with the additional software app in there, or maybe it might just be a matter of, you know, doing the output to that, or I don't know. It actually may not change a thing. It might not change a thing for you guys, actually. Since XSplit would be between Ring Central and, it's like XSplit's the final destination, right? It's like for all routing of.
Well, XSplit is
everything
pulling from all of that stuff, so you'd have to make sure you're set to pull correctly.
Right. I guess I was just saying, like, as long as everything is going into Ring Central and coming from Ring Central, is that, or?
Yeah, that should work, I think.
Oh, then y'all probably won't have to modify it, but it'd be worth checking out. That will enable us, and when we get it set up, and I would actually like you to try to set that up, just because then we can start doing things like taking call-ins or whatever, and then routing the audio, you know, through that to the show broadcast.
All right.
Especially when them Microsoft scam artists call Johnny. You know, that way we can have the virtual machine for them to remote into and get them on the phone.
Yeah, that would be awesome if we could get that point. But it would also be nice to be able to have like intro and exit music.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to sound effects from Michael.
Soundboard.
Okay,
Right.
one more thing though. This is important related to what we were talking about. Okay, so Newegg sending out those emails. I was a little bit curious about the 960 because I had never found confirmation that the 960 suffered from the same problem the 970 does as far as the 3.5 gig memory issue. We can talk about that issue in detail if you want to, but I don't really.
No, we don't.
But the point is that Newegg has now sent out video notifications to people who purchased the 960, who purchased the 980, which we know is not affected, as well as the 970. And now I have confirmation that they've also sent out that same email to people who purchased AMD R9 video cards, which may even include me. I may get one because I have one of those cards. I think somebody went crazy at Newegg. Either that or they know a whole lot more information than everybody else seems to know about what's going on here. So I would be wary if you receive these emails if you're actually entitled to it. I think something screwy may be going on with Newegg. I might be wrong about this, but there is a confirmation about the R9 and other stuff in that. So take a look and let me know your interpretation. But I think some people are going to be a little disappointed that they're not going to be getting some money. But anyone who purchased a 970, I think, does deserve it and will get it, whatever that amount may actually be. I think $30. So
thank you for spending that extra 5 minutes and then seemingly about to continue on further with $30 worth of something you paid for 3 years ago, probably. Let's go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. and hope to see you then. Take us out, Proctor.